A silver Nissan Rogue pulls into the Shell gas station on Edgewood Avenue in Jacksonville, Florida. The timestamp reads 9:00 a.m. on a Monday in August 2020. Security cameras capture what appears to be an ordinary morning. Customers filling their tanks, grabbing coffee, heading to work. Among them is 31-year-old Brittany Matthews, known affectionately as B to everyone who loved her. B steps out of her car, her movements casual and unhurried. She's on her way to her sister's house, just making a quick stop. The talented hairstylist with dreams of working with celebrities has no idea that someone is watching her, no idea that in moments, her life will be cut tragically short. The security footage continues rolling as a thin man in a hoodie and face mask exits the silver Nissan that has parked directly beside Brittany's vehicle. His movements are deliberate, purposeful. In seconds, he approaches Brittany's car, raises a semi-automatic handgun, and fires multiple shots. Then he's gone, driving away in the same vehicle, leaving behind devastation that would forever alter the lives of Brittany's family, her young son, and an entire community that adored her. 3 years later, despite having the vehicle, despite having images of persons of interest, despite a $9,000 0-cents reward, Brittany's killer remains free. Her mother, Alfreda, wakes each day with the same question: who murdered my daughter? Have you ever felt that sense of security shattered in an instant? A routine moment transformed into tragedy? Share where you're watching from as we uncover this heartbreaking case. Your engagement might help this story reach someone who knows something, someone who could finally bring justice for B and peace to her family. This is the story of Brittany B. Matthews, a story of talent cut short, of a mother's relentless pursuit of answers, and of a community's ongoing search for justice. Born around 1989, Brittany B. Matthews radiated warmth and positivity throughout Jacksonville, Florida. Those who knew her describe a woman whose smile could transform any room, whose laughter was contagious, and whose talent with hair was matched only by her generous spirit. She could light up any room, recalls one friend. This wasn't just a casual observation, it was Brittany's superpower. As a professional hairstylist, she didn't just change appearances, she boosted confidence and spread joy with each client who sat in her chair. Brittany's dream was clear and ambitious: to become a celebrity hairstylist. She pursued this goal with determination and creativity, building a loyal clientele who valued not just her technical skills, but the experience of being in her presence. Her hands worked magic with hair, but it was her heart that truly connected with people. Beyond her professional aspirations, Brittany was first and foremost a devoted mother. Her relationship with her young son was described by family members as exceptionally close. She worked tirelessly to provide for him, creating a nurturing home filled with love and laughter. Every decision she made was with his future in mind. The bond between Brittany and her mother, Alfreda Matthews, was equally profound. They shared not just genetic ties, but a deep friendship built on mutual respect and unwavering support. This connection would later fuel Alfreda's relentless pursuit of justice following her daughter's murder. Brittany's impact extended far beyond her immediate family. Her social circle was wide and diverse. Clients became friends, neighbors became confidants. She was known for her tireless commitment to making others feel good about themselves, both through her professional work and personal interactions. She was always thinking about how to make someone else's day better, one neighbor remembered. That's just who B was. In a community where many people keep to themselves, Brittany stood out as someone who genuinely cared. She remembered birthdays, celebrated others' successes, and offered comfort during difficult times. She was, as one friend put it, the kind of person you meet once and never forget. What makes her story all the more heartbreaking is the stark contrast between how she lived, spreading happiness and building connections, and how her life ended in an act of violence that left a community stunned and a family shattered. Monday, August 2020, a day that began like any other for Brittany Matthews. The 31-year-old hairstylist was heading to her sister's house, making what should have been a routine stop at the Shell gas station on Edgewood Avenue in Jacksonville. It was approximately 9:00 a.m. The morning rush was in full swing, people grabbing coffee, filling tanks, starting their week. For Brittany, it was just another stop on her way to family. She had no reason to be concerned, no cause for alarm. This was her community, her neighborhood, a place she'd visited countless times before. Security cameras captured her arrival at the gas station. The footage, later reviewed by investigators, shows Brittany pulling up to the pump in her car. Her movements were casual, unhurried, the movements of someone with no idea that danger was approaching. Minutes later, a silver Nissan Rogue entered the frame. The vehicle parked directly next to Brittany's car, a detail investigators would later note as evidence that this was not a random attack but a targeted one. The driver had specifically chosen to position himself beside Brittany's vehicle. What happened next unfolded with terrifying speed. A slender man, his face obscured by a mask and hoodie, exited the Nissan. Without hesitation, without warning, he approached Brittany's car and opened fire with a semi-automatic handgun. Multiple shots were fired, striking Brittany several times. The attack was swift, deliberate, and deadly. Brittany died at the scene, her life ended in seconds by an assailant whose identity remains unknown to this day. The shooter returned to the silver Nissan Rogue and fled the scene immediately. The entire incident, from arrival to departure, lasted less than a minute, a life extinguished in the time it takes most people to pump gas. Emergency services responded quickly to 911 calls from shocked witnesses. Paramedics arrived to find Brittany beyond help. Police secured the scene, gathering evidence and statements from those present. The gas station, normally a place of mundane daily transactions, was transformed into a crime scene. Word spread rapidly through Jacksonville. Friends tried calling Brittany's phone, growing concerned when she didn't answer. Then came the devastating news. For Alfreda Matthews, Brittany's mother, the notification came in the form of a phone call, a moment she would later describe as surreal. That it wasn't real, she recalled, that it just wasn't real. It still doesn't seem real. In an instant, a mother lost her daughter, a child lost his mother, and a community lost a bright light. The ordinary Monday had become the darkest of days, the beginning of a search for answers that continues to this day. The Jacksonville Sheriff's Office launched an immediate investigation into Brittany Matthews' murder. Detectives collected evidence from the Shell gas station, reviewed security footage, and interviewed witnesses who had been present that August morning. The security cameras had captured crucial details: the silver Nissan Rogue used by the shooter, the thin build of the suspect described as a black male, and the deliberate way he had parked next to Brittany's vehicle before opening fire. These elements suggested to investigators that this was not a random act of violence, but a targeted attack. The way the suspect positioned his vehicle, the direct approach, these indicate planning, noted one detective familiar with the case. This wasn't opportunistic. The shooter knew who he was looking for. Within days, investigators located the silver Nissan Rogue seen in the footage. This discovery initially seemed like a significant breakthrough. The vehicle potentially contained DNA evidence, fingerprints, or other forensic material that could identify the killer. However, finding the car did not immediately lead to an arrest. The Jacksonville Sheriff's Office released images of two individuals, a man and a woman considered persons of interest in the case. These individuals were believed to have information about the murder, though police did not specify whether they were suspected of direct involvement or simply possessed knowledge that could advance the investigation. Despite having the vehicle, surveillance footage, and images of persons of interest, the case began to stall. Leads that initially seemed promising failed to produce concrete results. Witnesses could provide only limited descriptions of the masked shooter. Physical evidence from the scene and vehicle apparently did not yield the definitive breakthrough investigators had hoped for. As weeks turned into months, Brittany's family grew increasingly frustrated with the lack of progress. The case that had begun with such urgency was showing signs of going cold. "It is my prayer for loose tongues," Alfreda Matthews told local media nearly 3 years after her daughter's murder, "that someone will finally speak up and not be afraid and just tell what happened to my child." What do you think happened to Brittany? Could someone in your community hold the key to a similar unsolved case? Like this video and share your thoughts below. Sometimes the smallest observation can break a case wide open. The Jacksonville Sheriff's Office maintained that the investigation remained active, but with each passing month, the trail grew colder. A $9,000 0 cents reward was offered for information leading to an arrest, a sum that remains unclaimed to this day. Law enforcement faced a challenging reality. Despite having video of the crime, the vehicle used, and images of persons who might have information, they lacked the final pieces needed to make an arrest. Without witnesses willing to come forward with specific information about the shooter's identity or motive, the case remained in limbo. 3 years after Brittany's murder, no arrests have been made. The person who pulled the trigger that August morning remains free, while a family continues to wait for answers and justice. There is no expiration date on grief in the loss of a child. You just have to take it day by day. These words from Elfrida Matthews capture the ongoing reality for Brittany's family, a pain that doesn't diminish with time, a wound that doesn't heal. For Elfrida, the journey since August 2020 has been defined by two parallel paths: processing her devastating loss while simultaneously fighting for justice. The duality of her experience, mourning a daughter while demanding answers, has required extraordinary strength. "I'm never giving up. Not as long as I got breath in me, I can't," Elfrida stated firmly in an interview nearly 3 years after Brittany's death. Her determination remains unwavering, her resolve strengthened rather than diminished by the passage of time. The impact on Brittany's young son has been profound. In an instant, he lost his mother, the center of his world, his protector, his guide. While the family has rallied around him, providing love and support, nothing can fill the void left by Brittany's absence. Milestones that should be shared with his mother, birthdays, school achievements, graduations, are now marked by her absence. Brittany's siblings, particularly the sister she was planning to visit on that fateful day, carry their own unique burden. The what-ifs haunt them. What if she had taken a different route, stopped at a different gas station, arrived a few minutes earlier or later? These unanswerable questions compound their grief. The Matthews family has worked to keep Brittany's memory alive in meaningful ways. They've organized memorial events, shared stories of her life rather than just her death, and emphasized the joy she brought to those around her. They refuse to let her be defined solely by the violent way her life ended. The community's response has been a source of both comfort and frustration. Friends, clients, and neighbors have rallied around the family, offering support and sharing memories of Brittany's impact on their lives. Murals and memorials have appeared throughout Jacksonville, ensuring that B is not forgotten. Yet this same community holds the answers the family seeks. Someone knows who pulled the trigger that morning. Someone has the information that could bring closure. The silence from those with knowledge has been perhaps the most painful aspect of the family's journey. "It still doesn't seem real," Elfrida has said repeatedly, describing the surreal nature of living in a world without her daughter while knowing her killer walks free. For the Matthews family, justice isn't about vengeance. It's about accountability, about acknowledging the value of Brittany's life, about ensuring that her death is not simply filed away as another unsolved case. It's about her son growing up, knowing that his mother's life mattered enough for society to demand answers. As days turn to weeks, months to years, the family continues their dual journey, honoring Brittany's memory while refusing to let her case fade from public consciousness. Their message remains consistent: someone knows something, and it's never too late to come forward. The targeted nature of Brittany Matthews' murder raises profound questions about motive. This was not a robbery gone wrong or a random act of violence. The shooter came specifically for Brittany, executed the attack with precision, and fled immediately. Understanding why someone would want to harm a beloved hairstylist and mother is central to solving this case. Several theories have emerged based on the available evidence. First, the possibility of mistaken identity. Could the shooter have targeted the wrong person? This theory seems unlikely given the deliberate way the killer parked beside Brittany's car and approached her vehicle. The security footage suggests someone who knew exactly who they were looking for. Second, a personal connection. The most common motive in targeted homicides involves someone known to the victim, a relationship gone wrong, a business dispute, or a personal conflict that escalated to violence. Investigators would typically look closely at recent changes in the victim's life, relationships, or conflicts that might have preceded the murder. When someone is targeted like this, there's usually a direct connection to the victim, explains one criminal investigator not affiliated with the case. Random killings rarely show this level of planning and specificity. Third, the possibility that Brittany witnessed something she shouldn't have, or possessed information that made her dangerous to someone. This theory would explain both the targeted nature of the attack and the apparent lack of obvious motive. The involvement of two persons of interest, the man and woman whose images were released by police, adds another layer of complexity. Were they directly involved in planning the murder? Were they aware of what was going to happen? Or did they simply have information about the shooter's identity? The fact that the case remains unsolved after 3 years, despite having surveillance footage, the vehicle used in the crime, and images of persons of interest, points to several challenging realities in homicide investigations. Without witnesses willing to come forward, even strong circumstantial evidence may not be enough to make an arrest. The code of silence that often surrounds violent crimes, whether motivated by fear or misplaced loyalty, can be the biggest obstacle to solving cases. The shooter's face was concealed by a mask and hoodie, making identification from the footage alone difficult. This disguise was likely deliberate, suggesting premeditation and awareness of the security cameras. The silver Nissan Rogue, while recovered, may not have yielded conclusive forensic evidence linking a specific individual to the crime. Modern criminals are increasingly aware of forensic techniques and may take precautions to avoid leaving DNA or fingerprints. What remains most baffling to those familiar with the case is the apparent disconnect between Brittany's life and her death. By all accounts, she was a positive force in her community, a loving mother, a dedicated professional, someone who spread joy rather than conflict. The violence that ended her life seems completely at odds with how she lived it. Brittany Matthews' case illustrates a painful reality in our criminal justice system, the phenomenon of justice delayed, potentially justice denied. When murders remain unsolved, they leave wounds that cannot fully heal, questions that echo without answers, and communities living with both grief and fear. For families like the Matthews, an unsolved murder creates a unique form of trauma. There is no closure, no opportunity to see accountability, no moment when they can say the person responsible has faced consequences. Instead, there is the knowledge that someone who took their loved one's life continues to walk free, perhaps even in the same community. "It is my prayer for loose tongues," Alfreda Matthews has said, expressing the hope that someone will finally speak the truth about what happened to her daughter. Her words highlight a critical aspect of cold cases. They often remain unsolved, not because evidence doesn't exist, but because those with knowledge remain silent. This silence can stem from various sources: fear of retaliation, misplaced loyalty to the perpetrator, or simply the desire to avoid involvement in a criminal investigation. Whatever the reason, this silence becomes complicit in denying justice to victims and their families. Communities also suffer when violent crimes go unsolved. Each unsolved murder erodes public trust in law enforcement and the justice system. It creates a sense that violence can occur without consequences, potentially emboldening others to commit similar acts. The ripple effects extend far beyond the immediate victim and their family. For Jacksonville, Brittany's unsolved murder represents not just the loss of a beloved community member, but a collective failure. A failure to protect her, to solve her killing, and to provide answers to her family. This failure belongs not just to law enforcement, but to anyone with information who has chosen to remain silent. Yet there is hope in cold cases. Advances in forensic technology, changes in relationships that lead witnesses to finally come forward, and renewed investigative efforts can bring resolution years or even decades after a crime. Justice delayed need not be justice forever denied. The passage of time can sometimes work in favor of solving cold cases. Loyalties shift, consciences weigh heavy, and people who once felt compelled to protect someone may eventually recognize the greater moral obligation to speak truth. Brittany's case reminds us that behind every crime statistic is a human being, someone with dreams, relationships, and a future that was violently taken away. Her story is not just about how she died, but about how she lived, the people who loved her, and a community's ongoing responsibility to seek justice on her behalf. For Alfreda Matthews and her family, the pursuit of that justice continues day by day, year by year, a testament to love that transcends even death, a mother's promise to her daughter that she will never be forgotten and her killer will never truly be free. Nearly 3 years have passed since that August morning when Brittany B. Matthews stopped at a Shell gas station on Edgewood Avenue in Jacksonville. 3 years since a thin man in a hoodie and mask emerged from a silver Nissan Rogue and fired multiple shots into her car. 3 years of questions without answers, of grief without closure, of justice delayed. The facts of this case remain stark and troubling. A 31-year-old hairstylist and mother, beloved in her community, was targeted and killed in broad daylight. Security cameras captured the crime, police recovered the vehicle used by the shooter, images of persons of interest were released to the public, yet no arrests have been made. Someone knows who pulled the trigger that morning. Someone has information that could bring peace to Alfreda Matthews and her family. Someone holds the key to justice for Brittany. "It is my prayer for loose tongues," Alfreda has said. Her words echo the reality of many unsolved murders. They remain unsolved not because evidence doesn't exist, but because those with knowledge choose silence over truth. If you have any information about Brittany Matthews' murder, no matter how insignificant it might seem, please contact the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office at 90463-00500 or Crime Stoppers at 866-845-TIPS. You can remain anonymous, and there is a $9,000 0 cents reward for information leading to an arrest. For those watching who didn't know Brittany, who never experienced her infectious smile or sat in her styling chair, you might wonder why her case matters. It matters because every unsolved murder leaves a community less safe, a family without peace, and a killer free to potentially harm others. It matters because Brittany's life mattered to her son, to her mother, to her friends and clients, to everyone whose day was brightened by her presence. By subscribing to this channel, you're joining a community dedicated to giving voices to victims like Brittany. Your engagement helps these stories reach those who might have the missing piece to solve these cases. Like, subscribe, and share this video. You never know who in your network might recognize something crucial in this case. Brittany B. Matthews was more than a victim. She was a mother who loved her son deeply, a daughter who shared a special bond with her mother, a hairstylist who dreamed of working with celebrities, a friend who could light up any room with her smile, a woman whose life was cut tragically short but whose memory lives on in everyone who knew her. For Alfreda Matthews, the fight for justice continues. "I'm never giving up. Not as long as I got breath in me, I can't," she has vowed. Her determination honors her daughter's memory and reminds us all that there is no statute of limitations on seeking truth, no expiration date on the pursuit of justice. Somewhere in Jacksonville, or perhaps beyond, is the person who knows what happened to Brittany Matthews on that August morning in 2020. It's never too late to come forward. It's never too late to choose truth. It's never too late for justice.